Hey guys, hey, this is number 14 in our discussion on open air preaching, point number 14. I have stated at times that some of these may overlap. And so this one that I want to discuss today, you could entitle as we're out there preaching on the streets, be personable or be relational. Some of it may be a little overlapping in the one. I think it was number 11 that I discussed, looking people in the eye. So it's similar to that, but it's just the whole idea of being personable, being relational. When you're out there preaching on the streets, and when people think about a street preacher, there's already enough weirdness that goes in with it, and people are gonna probably naturally tend to think that this guy's a little off, this guy's a little strange. And so we don't want to add to that by actually being strange. No, we want to be personable. We want to be gracious. We want to be relational. And you can do that real easy. You can do that, while you're setting up, getting ready to preach in an area. And as people are walking by, or you see somebody maybe standing there, you can tell they're kind of curious. You can be friendly right there to them. You don't have to, not only do we not have to, we shouldn't be out there and just be, just like an island to ourselves. And man, we don't talk to nobody. We're just out here to preach. And so no, we're not helping things when we do that. Be personable, build relationships. You can build a relationship with somebody in a matter of seconds by just being friendly to them. How you doing, sir? How you doing? Just be real, be relational. And then as we're preaching, and this kind of goes into, kind of overlaps with things like look people in the eye, but being relational, being real, being conversational. And I think I'd mentioned in one of the early videos that all preachers, maybe you have a different style. Maybe it's more your style when you're preaching to maybe not be as conversational. Because it takes a lot of wisdom. It takes a lot of discernment, because we are there to proclaim the gospel, So it's just that wisdom and discernment of knowing when to talk with a person, maybe when to even shut the preaching down, because there's a conversation that you feel like the Lord has brought to you that you need to tend to further. Of course, if you have other people out there with you, you can point people to talk to some of your people. So there's all kinds of circumstances. But what I'm speaking about here is just, let's say, for example, that you have somebody. I'll give an example. I'll just give an illustration of this. Really, one of the best memories I have in preaching at the bus station. This was 9 years ago, my third time to be there, and I was preaching on a Friday afternoon. It was very cold outside, very gray, very dreary. I was down there by myself. There wasn't a whole lot going on, and so I'm just sitting there preaching, and I don't know, after 30, 45 minutes or so, this lady appeared, and she was standing in front of me, and she was probably in her 60s, and she was just standing there nodding as I was preaching. I could tell she was listening, and I didn't have anybody there with me to talk to her. So I finally looked at her in the eye. I said, "Ma'am, do you have a question?" She said, "Yes." And so her question was, "Is there hope for prostitutes?" And I said, "Absolutely, there's hope for prostitutes." And so the preaching all of a sudden became personal. I started dealing with this lady here. I even turned my amp off, talked to her for another 30 minutes. Again, her name was Nancy. She was in her 60s. She had been a prostitute, she said, her whole life. She was broken. She had just been walking down the street, heard me preaching about God, and she said, "I had to come over here and ask you that question." Well, see, if I would have been preaching and just kind of ignored her, but I could tell she was locked in. She was listening. She was even getting emotional. And that's what I mean by you have to use discernment. We have to be relational. If somebody, guys, I'm going to go a little long on this video. I wasn't even planning on it, but so this one will be a little bit longer. We have to be we have to use discernment when you're preaching the gospel. If you have people that are standing in front of you and they're looking you in the eye, okay, make eye contact with them, engage them. If somebody has I have, and this is not to be critical, okay? This is not to be critical, because I've come up short in all these areas, okay? But I've seen guys preaching, and again, I've done it too, where there'll literally be somebody there standing in front of you, and they literally have their hand up, trying to be respectful, and nobody even addresses them. You know, because we're so concerned with preaching the gospel, yet we're not willing to deal with individual souls. So that's what I mean by be personable. When you're preaching, yes, we do want to get the gospel out. That's the main reason I'm there. So, but when you can detect that somebody is really engaged and somebody wants to speak further, or somebody has a question, engage them, right? Be from one soul to another. You're there to reach people, right? And so, again, there's myriads of circumstances. We want to be discerning, but you're there to reach people. So I just think back to Nancy. I talked with her for 30 minutes. We wept together. I prayed for her. She told me she wanted to repent and trust in Jesus Christ. It was a beautiful thing. It's probably one of the best memories, if not the best encounter I've ever had in years out on the streets, to minister to this prostitute with the gospel and to hear her broken. But if I would have just preached, right? If I would have just preached, I'm here to preach and I don't want to engage with this lady here, I would have missed that. Yes, God is sovereign. He's going to accomplish purpose. He's going to save his elect and these type of things, but we need to use discernment. And a great deal of using discernment is knowing it's just to be personable. Don't be the weirdo. Don't be the weird preacher who's not willing to deal with people one-on-one. I think if you're not willing to deal with people one-on-one, you shouldn't be out there preaching. So anyway, guys, I wasn't planning on going long. I've tried to keep these under 5 minutes, but this one went a little longer. But anyway, I hope this can encourage you in some way. And God bless you guys. We'll talk to you next time.